microfone? Oi. Oi? Tá ligado o negocinho dela? A gente acha que a melhor forma de fazer isso, já vi um monte de pergunta, claro, né? Sempre. Então, a melhor forma é a gente abrir para algumas perguntas, ela responde, não, né, milhões de perguntas, senão vocês não vão conseguir autografar, nem vão ter um momentinho com ela. Então, o que vocês acham? Pode ser assim? A gente faz umas perguntinhas e... Vamos lá, levanta a mão. Ela lá foi primeiro.
Hi, Cassie. There's more than 3,000 people over there waiting for you.
Oh no.
Like, how do you feel about that? Do you know that so many people love you here in Brazil?
No, I didn't know that there were so many fans in Brazil. I know that there's a lot of Brazilian readers because I get a lot of letters in Portuguese. And my assistant has a Portuguese translator so we can answer them. But I didn't realize that there would be so many people at the book fair. That's a lot of people. I wish I could meet all of them, but I'll meet as many of them as I can. Thank you.
Próximo. Pode. Gente, quem não quiser, quem não se sente confortável para perguntar em inglês, não tem problema, tá?
I was wondering if we will get to see any more Lovelace in the next series.
Oh, Jessamine. So Jessamine from the Infernal Devices, her last name is Lovelace, and there aren't any other Lovelaces, so she was the last. But if a Shadowhunter name dies out, then someone who decides to ascend and become a Shadowhunter can pick that name that is unused and use it. And so, since there's so many Shadowhunters who died at the end of City of Heavenly Fire, there's going to be a lot more new people becoming Shadowhunters and choosing names. So I think we'll see another Lovelace.
Thank you.
Hi, Kate. I love you. What do you think about Lily Collins?
About what?
Lily Collins.
Oh, I was like, I really, I really like Lily. She's really sweet. She's really, nice. She's really dedicated. I thought she was really good. I thought most of the actors turned in really good performances. I thought that if there were, issues with the movie, it wasn't them.
Hi. I read about a situation maybe we would have a new film about
City of Ashes.
No, about Clockwork Angel. Because, no, I read you are chasing some director and someone who was writing a script or something like that.
They're rewriting, well, after the first Mortal Instruments movie came out, they got a lot of people complaining that it wasn't like the books. And so, they had a second screenplay for City of Ashes, and it was even less like the books. Like, it was nothing like the books, like nothing. I think Valentine had a submarine. Didn't he have a submarine? He had a submarine, and Magnus ran for mayor of New York. It was very weird. So they kind of looked at the screenplay and they looked at the sort of like fan response, and they were like, well, we can't do this. We have to throw the screenplay away and do a completely new screenplay that's more like the books. So that's what they've been working on. It's complicated because usually if you're doing a series of movies, you have the screenplay ready by the time the first movie has come out. You have the screenplay for the second movie, so you can go right into filming it. And they didn't have one. It takes a year to do a screenplay. So I was hoping that in the next couple of weeks I would get to see the new screenplay for City of Ashes.
What do you think about a TV series?
I would love it if they did a TV series. We talked about that. It's hard because the first one's a movie, so it's a little difficult, but it's not like it's never been done. I mean, if you have, I don't know if you have like Teen Wolf here.
I
love Teen Wolf. My favorite show. Game of Thrones and then Like, it was once a movie, and then they expanded it out. So I would love for them to do something like that. And if they can't find a screenplay that they like, I think that they might do that because Sony, who did the movie, they have a TV department. And so they would be really interested in doing that.
Thank you. Hi. How do you feel knowing that a lot of people tattoo your rooms?
I love it.
Because there's a lot of people who do that. So.
Oh, well, you should, if you have a tattue, you should show it to me so I can take a picture. Absolutely. Because I have a collection. I mean, if you have a tattoo, you don't want to show me, that's okay. But I have a collection of pictures of people's tattoos. So.
My friend wants to.
Hi, Cassie. Excuse me for my English. I'm so nervous. So I want to ask you about Valentin.
Okay.
Do you regret that he's no more in any of the books of yours, and he will be somehow in any future books?
I will miss him in the way I miss all characters that, you know, I can't write about anymore. But I think that he died in the right way at the right time. And part of the reason I wanted to write the next 3 books was to write about Jonathan as the villain instead of instead of Valentine. Because Valentine was one kind of villain and Sebastian was very different, so I wanted to contrast the 2 kinds of villains, and I thought that would be fun. So you know, it's good to know that somebody misses Valentine because I don't think that's
There will be more there will be more Morgensterns in future books.
Morgenstern. I thought she said Mockingjay, and I was like, different book. Yes, there'll be more Morgensterns.
5 perguntas pra gente começar a autografar, senão não vai dar tempo. 5. Porque a gente já tá com a mão apertada pro tempo.
Continue. You can say something about the Uncle Arthur.
Oh, the uncle of the Blackthorns. Oh, Uncle Arthur. Oh, your name is Arthur? Actually, he's not a bad man. He's in charge of the Los Angeles Institute, and he looks after Emma and Julian and the other Blackthorn children, but he lost a lot of people in the war, and since then he has sort of, I don't know how to say it, but it's idiomatic English, but he's just disappeared into his own head, and he basically stays in his attic and he reads books, and he's writing like a book of his own. He hardly ever comes out, so they hardly ever see him. So really, Julian is the one who runs the institute, and Arthur shows up every once in a while and is like, what's going on? And they're like, everything's fine, it's all fine. But unfortunately, yeah, he's not the biggest help.
So, Cassie, we have heard about an interesting theory that Sebastian could, could got pregnant with Sebastian. Can you tell something about it?
Well, we know that there are half humans and half fairies because Melanie is one, and Mark and Helen are also half fairies. So, so there's no reason that he couldn't have gotten a silly pregnant if it was something she wanted, and maybe she did it. You know, she's very clever and she's always playing a game with everybody. So if that was something she wanted from him, that would make sense.
Lado de muito atendido. A gente agora os 3 vão ser daqui. Vai.
There's any moment in the book as you regret writing or have a second thought?
I try not to think about it too much because it'll make you crazy if you think about, you know, the things you would like to change, or oh, I would have liked to go and put that in. But I regret not showing the when Maureen killed Camille, because I just didn't want, I didn't write it out, but I had this whole idea of how, you know, she was such a young, vampire and was so ferocious, and how she got, you know, and overpowered so much an older vampire. And I think it would have been a really great scene. And even now people ask me, like, how did she do it? How did she kill, you know, Bienal is so powerful? And I'm like, oh, I really should have written that out. So I regret that.
Thank you.
Hi, Cassie. First of all, thanks to be here. I was wondering, I spent the last 6 hours coming here. And by bus, so it was a long travel. And I was reading Clockwork Princess, so I finished while traveling here. And it was amazing finish, and I love Infernal Devices. And I was wondering, as an amateur writer too, I was wondering about the cycle that you finished between the Infernal Devices and Mortal Instruments that you did with like Jem becoming brother Zachariah. It was always in your mind to do that, or suddenly appeared?
I decided to write the Infernal Devices after City of Ashes. So it was always in my mind when I was planning, like you see Tessa very briefly in City of Glass. And it was always in my mind kind of from that moment on that the Mortal Instruments books would reflect what happened in the Infernal Devices. So you won't see anything in City of Bones or City of Ashes, but there's little bits in City of Glass, City of Fallen Angels, City of Lost Souls, and also
spoilers.
Well, yeah, you see Tessa's Clockwork Angel at the Institute in New York. When Jace is in the Silent City, he sees that somebody has written JG on the wall, and then you see Jessamine write her initials on the wall in Clockwork Prince. So I just wanted the sense of the overlap, sort of the connection of the past and the future, and how they were, you know, not so far away from each other. And also, it's also the story of Jem. I mean, you know, he goes all the way from what happens to him in Clockwork Princess to the end of City of Heavenly Fire, where he's, you know, human again, and then he's in Dark Artifices too with Tessa. So
That was genius.
Oh, well, thank you.
Talk a little bit about Simon. In his chronicles, will it have that villain?
Well, okay, so we're talking about the Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy,
Yes.
Right? So we all know about this?
Yeah.
You guys know everything. Is there a villain? There's a couple of different villains, because it's a bit more like the Bane Chronicles than like another book. Each story, you could read it separately, and if you hadn't read the other stories, you would still understand it. But you know, he's at school, there are teachers at the school, some of them like him, there are, you know, a lot of shadow hunters who believe that somebody who was once a vampire, now a worlder, or, you know, should not be allowed to become a shadow hunter, you know, so he encounters a lot of opposition. So there are antagonists, but it's more of a collection of stories about, you know, Simon, how he changes, how he learns what it means to be a shadow hunter, whether he decides that that's what he wants to do, what happens with him and Isabel. Somebody from the Mortal Instruments gets married. And there's a bachelorette party, it goes very badly. You know, there's a Power Bats High ceremony, and it's sort of about, you know,
there's a little bit of everything.
There's a little bit of everything, and some of the stories are more funny, and some of the stories are more serious, and it's just a kind of to me, at the end of City of Heavenly Fire, I felt like everyone's story was pretty resolved. You know, there's always more questions. You know, did Jason Clare get married? Do they have kids? How many? You know, same with Magnus and Alec, and you know, there's always those kinds of questions. But for Simon, he was the one where I felt like there was the most questions. You know, like what's he gonna do? What's he gonna choose? Now that he has some of his memories, but not all of them. And so this was for me a way to kind of give the resolution to his story.
You already decided.
No, it's okay.
Please, Simon's Shadowhunter name.
I'm not gonna tell you.
Começar a autografar, a gente não vai conseguir terminar.
A gente vai educadamente no final, porque eu não vou me meter. esperar aqui educadamente, pessoal. Tá certo. Tem o quê?
Terminando a sua gravação, mas tudo bem.
Ah, tá bom.